question, madam, here?
Excuse me?
Sir, 1 second.
Yeah.
There is a question from that side. Sir, just hold on.
It is rather a clarification up to 80 age variants. Is this the same drug substance or similar drug substance? And is there any price variation between two of them?
No, it's the same drug substance, it's the same amount of antigen, it's the exact same formulation, and there is no price difference. I have to say this was a very deliberate decision by the company, and we designed the product in that fashion because from a programmatic standpoint, we see how difficult it is. You know, in JE, for example, we have two different strengths, one up to a certain age group and another. Inventory management is an issue when you don't know how many people of a certain age are coming. Second, training is an issue. You have to say blue cap for this age, red cap for that age, make sure there's no mix-up. So we wanted to make it programmatically simple when you administer it. And the third point is, obviously, sorry, I think that's really the main point. So obviously in designing the vaccine itself, from day one we wanted to make sure we selected a formulation that would be extremely safe in the lower age group.
That means this is going to be available for adult population also in the private market?
Yes, that's correct.
And secondly, how about this new variant that is coming in, emerging in China, the stealth or something? Is it ready for that?
You know, again, it's very hard. I wish we had a crystal ball. We knew the virulence of that. We knew, it's going to impact people. What I can tell you is that for the existing variants of concern, we know our vaccine has good coverage. It depends on the amount of mutation of the virus and so on. So it's very hard to determine that at
Will
this
you be
point.
able to
But what we do know across the board all the time, and even though this isn't the only correlate, what people do converge on, the higher your levels of antibodies, the greater your chances to prevent serious hospitalization events and things like that. That people seem to scientifically converge on, one of the very few things.
Just one last question, ma'am. Will you be able to give an outlook or assessment kind of thing for vaccine markets going forward, given the uncertainties in some regions it is still a worry, and some regions it is already over. There are conflicting situations emerging across the
But our vaccine is licensed from the age groups of 12 to 80, so the elderly, basically 12 and above. And so the usage will be wherever primary immunization is still needed, whether it's in private market or wherever. If they're using it for primary immunization, it can be used, so above the ages of 12. But when it comes to the government program, clearly the focus right now is to ensure that the vulnerable 12 to 15 who are naive to vaccines immediately get these vaccines.
One additional question. Have you started trials of your vaccine as a booster dose for other vaccines? And if so, what is the level at which it is?
So we have started the trial, I think about 2 months back. We finished the trial, the safety data is out, and as expected, the safety is excellent. We are working out the immunogenicity data. We hope to have the data in the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. And just for clarify Mahima's question for Mahima, our job is to fulfill the order to the government of the 300 million doses. And the fact that it's licensed and available for all indication, how they use it is up to them. They have their priorities and we're happy to support it wherever we can.
And this will be a booster dose for all three vaccines available, as in Covaxin, Covishield, and Sputnik.
No.
What's the trial?
I mean, our trial design is mainly for Covishield and Covaxin because they happen to be the 99% of the vaccination. And obviously, we will have some booster data of our own
Thank you.
Good evening, madam. My question is, madam.
For R&D. So at the early stages of development, we wanted to collaborate with academic institutes that were already doing research in largely expressing these in PICIA, which was the platform of expression for us for hepatitis B vaccine. So we actually evaluated multiple academic institutions that were conducting this type of research and narrowed it down to Baylor, who's had a lot of experience with the original SARS constructs. So they were very quick to support us with the clone development, with changes that we needed on the clone for stability, for manufacturability. So it's really for R&D purposes.
What about you did any clinical trials in the Children's Hospital, madam?
No, we've not done clinical trials in the United States. And Texas Children's Hospitals really supports Baylor to do their research, so that's the connect.
Now Corbevax is an Indian vaccine or an imported vaccine?
It's an Indian vaccine. It's made here in Shamirpet and completely from scratch is made until the finished product, packed, inspected, supplied, everything right here in Andhra.
Thank you, madam. Thanks.
That we made the application and that we expect review on this.
One request, last couple of questions, because our online media friends are waiting patiently.
One additional question here, sir.
Yeah, one clarification, I think as we see the evolution of the disease, we intend to start development of this vaccine all the way to 6 months, not knowing how the epidemiology will change. And we're fairly confident of the safety profile of the vaccine that we can go down that level, but obviously the safety of the clinical data will determine that.
One question here, sir. Ravi Kumar again from the Hindu. This government order of 30 crore doses, would it stop with that or have they?
Quite a large volume, as you can imagine, and it will depend on the absorptive capacity of each individual state, how quickly they're able to immunize and so on and so forth. But we're in touch with them literally on a daily basis to help manage their inventory and their needs. One thing I can tell you is should there be an increase in demand, since we're operating at a very high run rate, Vikram already talked about 1 billion doses a year, we will be able to respond to any needs that they may have in the future. And that will become evident, I presume, over the next couple of months. The only caveat I would put there is it's important to know of any substantial changes in demand early on, because it's not just us that needs to organize and make sure everything is done, but also to be able to secure materials from a lot of our suppliers who, particularly because these are huge quantities, they need to be able to deliver those. But I'm convinced we have that heads up because we're literally, like I said, in touch on a daily basis.
Sorry, one query from here. 5 to 12-year-olds is also a category that you're looking
We have spent enlisting infants because all of our vaccines so far largely have been pediatric vaccines. Hepatitis B is given as a birth dose, right? Pentavalent is 6, 12, 14. So 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks is the schedule. So this is done with the parent, with the physician, with informed videotape consent and what have you. And of course, one may ask, how do you monitor, an infant can't speak. So there's a whole host of metrics that the clinical development team employ, which is used the world over, and this is what we usually deploy. So honestly, for us, it's actually not difficult to look at this. What in the case of COVID, what we followed was the disease burden. It was impacting adults the most, so our development started with adults, but our predominant experience has been with infants and children.
But as a market at this point, we're not looking at the US, but we are looking at Australia as well as Africa at this point. I think that it will really depend upon how the data is in the 6 months to 2 weeks. And we've had discussions with US FDA, so I think that we haven't really got to a point where we believe our vaccine could make a difference there. And that's where we're at right now. Adult and the 12 to 14 is available on our website as well as a product insert. So whatever data the regulator approves of the product is automatically uploaded on our website as part of the product insert. Omicron is not a prerequisite for licensure, so we have done the study. So that is not part of a regulatory package, but we have disclosed it to NTAGI. I think over the next probably week to 10 days we will publish it.
Also related to the rest of the data on the phase 3 studies conducted so far and everything, all of that data is available on our website as part of the package.
Thank you. There is one question from Ms. Geeta Nair of Financial Express. Can you share production plans? What is going to ramp up? Will you start exports? If so, when and where? What are the
100 million doses, which is sitting, 25 of which is sitting in inventory at our place, 5 of which has been delivered across 17, I believe 17 different sites in the country. Our monthly run rate will be about 100 million doses. The key question is not having predictability about offtake, not knowing when exactly would boosters get expanded, would the age get expanded, would export markets needed. These are all variables that we're dealing with really on a daily basis. So, we have to manage carefully to ensure what our production plan henceforth should be, but we have the ability to produce at 100 million a month.
Thank you. I'll move to
umbrella trial. I think almost 20 sites within India participated in that. All the dosing is completed. So we recruited all the subjects, they received the 2-dose vaccination. We received interim data which we have submitted as per that same primary time point will be completed fairly soon. So for the 12 to 18 we are almost done. 5 to 10 also will reach very soon. So I would say
Adult immunogenicity data is being reviewed by our partners, that will be published first, and I think the children scientific paper will be subsequently later.
It's their IP related to their mRNA technology. Does it mean that 15 different countries and 100 different manufacturers can make
To a much more successful availability of our vaccine.